Okay, let's start today with a premise that, well, it might make you a little uncomfortable.
Which is exactly why we're doing this deep dive.
Right, exactly. Because I want you to imagine just for a second that comedy isn't just about getting a quick laugh at a bar.
Or, throwing on a Netflix special to just unwind after a long week.
Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
I want you to imagine that comedy is actually a weapon, like a knife.
A very sharp knife.
Right. And it's a knife that's supposed to be used to expose the truth, to cut through all the cultural noise, and really slice open the belly of the beast.
But the kicker here, and this comes straight from the research we're unpacking today, is that this weapon has been captured.
Captured. Yeah, that is the operating word. And we aren't talking about it being captured by, like, a rival army.
No, it's been captured by a specific cultural shift.
Right. A culture that, according to the source material we're looking at, is just absolutely obsessed with safety, with feelings, and making sure nobody ever gets their feathers ruffled.
It's a massive shift in how we handle communication.
Yeah, it really is. So we are diving deep today into what is essentially a manifesto, and it's designed to wake you up.
But before we unsheath this knife, so to speak, we have a quick favor to ask.
Yeah, a job for you, the listener. If you want this kind of unfiltered analysis, if you want us to keep bringing you the stuff that the mainstream algorithms are, frankly, actively trying to bury,
Yeah.
you need to like and subscribe to this show right now.
Honestly, don't wait. Just hit the button.
Seriously, do it right now. It helps us keep the lights on.
The algorithm really doesn't like this topic, so we need your help to push it through.
Okay, so the book we are unpacking today is massive. It's an ultra long, highly incisive, just absolute beast of a text called Humor and Honor: Masculine Ethics in a World Possessed by Witchcraft.
By Conrad Riker.
Right, Conrad Riker. And let me tell you, despite the title having humor in it, this is definitely not a joke book.
Not at all. Riker frames this as a manual for cognitive warfare.
Yeah, he's writing specifically for what you might call the red-pilled manosphere audience. Men's rights activists, guys who feel totally alienated.
He is speaking directly to men who look at modern institutions, universities, HR departments, mainstream media, and feel like something is just fundamentally broken.
And the book argues that these institutions were essentially captured by feminist and Marxist ideologies long before most of us even notice.
Right, ideologies that prioritize emotional safety over objective truth.
And the main thesis here is that men can reclaim their sovereignty, like their actual true independence of mind, through the ancient primal power of laughter.
It's a fascinating premise.
It totally is. So if you're listening to this and you feel like the walls are sort of closing in on what you're allowed to say or think, you need to go to Amazon Kindle or Google Play Books right now.
Literally pause this deep dive if you have to.
Yeah, pause it, go buy this ebook, Humor and Honor by Conrad Riker.
And while you're at it, you should really go follow him on Substack at Conrad Riker.
Yeah, at Conrad Riker. You are going to want to see what he's posting there because it is incredibly raw.
Okay, so let's get into the actual diagnosis Riker lays out. He starts by identifying what he calls the anima infiltration.
Which honestly sounded like a sci-fi movie title to me when I first read it.
It does sound like one.
But for the listener who maybe skipped Psychology 101 or who isn't super deep into Jungian theory, can we just break down what anima actually means in this context?
Sure. So in Jungian psychology, the anima represents the feminine inner personality.
Okay.
And Riker uses it to describe a massive shift in the fundamental purpose of comedy itself.
Because historically, he argues that comedy was very masculine coded, right?
Exactly. It was a tool for truth. It was used for establishing hierarchy, for checking power. It was aggressive.
It was about logos.
Yes. But Riker's argument is that it has shifted. Now it's become a tool of therapy and validation.
Which he codes as feminine or anima driven.
Right. And the best example he gives, and the book goes into incredible detail on this, is the contrast between Dave Chappelle and Hannah Gadsby.
This was a crucial comparison to me. Because if you look at Hannah Gadsby's special, Nanette, which came out a few years ago.
The mainstream media absolutely hailed it as a masterpiece.
Right, they loved it. But Riker analyzes it completely differently. He doesn't even see it as comedy. He calls it emotional hostage-taking.
Which is a heavy term. But he explains it by looking at the structure. In a traditional joke, you have a syllogism. It's logic. A plus B equals C, usually with some kind of surprise twist.
It's an intellectual exercise for the audience.
Right. But Riker argues that Gadsby replaces the syllogism with testimony. She presents her pain.
And the issue isn't just that she's sharing pain, right? It's the reaction that sharing pain demands from the room.
Exactly. You can't argue with pain. If someone says, "This hurts me," you can't logically say, "No, it doesn't."
That's the trap he talks about.
Yes. Riker says this dynamic forces the audience into submission rather than laughter.
You aren't laughing because you caught a clever contradiction in logic. You're sitting in silence because you're essentially being morally lectured.
And this is where it gets really interesting. The book cites a neuroimaging study from Oxford regarding this exact type of performance.
Yeah, this part totally blew my mind. Putting hard science behind the theory, what is actually happening in the brain during these confessional routines?
Well, the study suggests that performances like Nanette trigger a massive spike in oxytocin.
The cuddle hormone.
Exactly, the cuddle hormone.
Yeah.
It promotes bonding, empathy, and trust.
But there's a trade-off.
A huge trade-off. High levels of oxytocin simultaneously suppress activity in the dorsolateral prefrontal cortex.
Which is the brain's logic center.
Right. So quite literally, Riker is arguing that this style of performance is sedating the male mind.
He calls it chemical warfare disguised as art.
You don't leave the theater laughing. You leave drained, pliable, and highly suggestible. You're trapped in a state of feeling rather than thinking.
That paints a really scary picture. It's basically saying, don't analyze this, just empathize with it.
And this connects directly to what Riker calls the inversion of the three filters.
We all know these filters, right? Is it true? Is it necessary? Is it kind?
Those are the classic filters for speech, usually attributed to Socrates or sometimes the Buddha.
But Riker argues they've been weaponized against men.
Specifically the kindness filter. He says it has become a feminine veto.
A veto, like it just overrides the other two completely.
Under this new cultural rule, if something isn't kind, it's not allowed to be said, even if it is demonstrably true, and even if it is absolutely necessary.
So kindness becomes the only metric that actually matters. It becomes a muzzle.
If the truth hurts, you just aren't allowed to speak the truth.
He calls this the pathos tyranny, doesn't he?
He does. Pathos being the Greek term for emotion or suffering.
So safety, or more accurately, the subjective feeling of being unsafe, is used to censor valid critiques of society.
Right. If a joke makes someone feel unsafe, the culture treats it as literal violence.
And this explains the compliance we see in modern late-night television.
Oh, the court jesters chapter.
Yeah. I think a lot of our listeners have definitely noticed this shift in late-night TV. It feels way more like a sermon than a roast these days.
It's hard to miss. Riker points out that hosts like Colbert or Kimmel aren't playing the traditional role of the fool who bravely mocks the king.
They're playing the role of the court jester who exists just to please the queen, or the regime.
Exactly. They punch down at the working class, the guys driving trucks, the everyday men. They mock them instead of punching up at the actual corporate power structures.
They're just protecting the status quo. They aren't challenging it at all.
So that's the diagnosis. The system is rigged to sedate you with feelings and silence you with kindness.
But the good news is, Riker doesn't just complain about it. He gives us the actual mechanics of how to fight back.
Which brings us to two more Greek concepts he uses, logos and kairos.
Logic and timing. This is where the book really shifts into being a technical manual.
It does. Riker's extremely clear here. A good joke is a syllogism. It relies heavily on logos.
It's a computation.
You present two incompatible beliefs to the audience, and the physical act of laughter is just the brain resolving that sudden tension.
It's cognitive dissonance being resolved, like your brain snapping a rubber band back into its proper place.
Correct. And he brings up the benign violation theory,
Yeah.
which is pretty much the standard academic theory of humor.
Right, the idea that we laugh when a rule is broken, which is the violation, but only when we know it's harmless or benign.
But Riker argues this entire theory is basically dead now.
Why is it dead? I always thought that was the gold standard for understanding comedy.
Because in our current culture, according to Riker, nothing is allowed to be benign anymore.
Everything is interpreted as trauma.
Exactly. If you slip on a banana peel, it's not funny. It's an unsafe working environment.
If you make a joke about the differences between men and women, it's not an observation, it's hate speech.
So you simply can't have a benign violation if the audience has been trained by the culture to see every single violation as an act of violence.
Wow. So we have to move past looking for permission. We have to stop worrying about whether the joke is benign.
And that leads directly into the timing aspect. Kairos.
Riker calls this the sovereign timing of men. I love the specificity in this chapter. He talks about the 1.2 second pause.
It's a really fascinating detail. Riker cites research from Utrecht University showing that a 1.2 second pause right before a punchline increases the laughter response by 47%.
But he takes it a step further than just comedic timing. It isn't just about getting the laugh.
No, it's about dominance.
He calls it the alpha pause.
Yes. He points to examples like Winston Churchill or even Donald Trump in modern debates.
When they pause, they aren't hesitating.
No, they aren't looking for the right word or getting confused. They are intentionally forcing the audience to wait for them.
It creates this intense vacuum in the room.
And the natural instinct for most people is to rush in and fill that vacuum because silence feels incredibly awkward.
But the dominant man just lets it sit there, so silence literally becomes a power move.
The book mentions a metric called the silence index. It shows that male comedians use 38% more silence in their sets than female comedians.
And Riker argues this is because men naturally use silence to assert authority.
Whereas the feminine imperative, the animal rearing its head again, is often to immediately fill any silence to create comfort or a sense of connection.
So just holding that silence is a pure act of sovereignty. It's non-verbally saying, I am comfortable in this tension, and I'm going to make you sit in it with me.
And that concept connects directly to Stoicism, to the ancient Greek idea of arete, or excellence.
Riker draws a straight line from the ancient Spartan boy all the way to modern Navy SEALs.
In these high-performance male groups, humor is never about just being a clown or seeking approval. It's a rigorous test.
There is that amazing story about the raft in the book. I think this perfectly illustrates the point. It might be my favorite anecdote in the whole deep dive.
Oh, the story about the retired SEAL, Lieutenant Commander Vance.
Yes. So their raft is literally sinking off the Horn of Africa during a night mission.
It's an absolute disaster.
Yeah.
A life or death situation. The waves are crashing, their gears being lost to the ocean.
And right in the middle of this chaos, he looks at his team and says, well, at least the fish won't be lonely.
And the team laughs. In the face of death, they don't panic. They laugh.
They laugh because it instantly breaks the panic.
And this is the crucial takeaway. If you can take a joke during a crisis, you are fit to lead.
But if you whine or if you complain and say this isn't safe, you are immediately ostracized from the group.
Riker calls this phronesis. It's practical wisdom. It's an unwritten loyalty test among men.
It's a way of asking, are you with us? Can you handle objective reality?
Because if you can't handle a simple joke, you certainly cannot handle a war.
Precisely. And Riker argues that modern HR departments and corporate sensitivity training are explicitly designed to kill this mechanism.
They treat this vital bonding ritual as if it's just bullying.
But by banning it, they are systematically destroying the exact mechanism men use to build camaraderie and resilience.
Which brings us to the much bigger picture here. This isn't just about office politics or whether you can tell a mildly offensive joke in the break room.
No, this is about the overarching regime we are currently living under.
Segment 3 of the book gets into hegemon and nomos, power and law.
And Riker makes this incredibly chilling comparison to the Soviet Union.
In a very powerful chapter. He argues that the current woke cultural climate directly mirrors the late Soviet era.
You have a regime that relies entirely on lies and propaganda to survive.
And the only truly effective weapon against that kind of system is the whisper, the joke.
He retold that specific Soviet joke, the one about the meat. It's so simple, but it cuts so deep.
Right. It's a classic syllogism of absence. The joke simply asks, what is black and red, and covers the country.
And the answer is the newspaper, because we use it to wrap meat, and there is no meat.
It completely exposes the lie of the state.
The government is broadcasting that the economy is booming, but the joke definitively proves it isn't, because you can't wrap non-existent meat.
And this explains perfectly why the KGB and Riker explicitly compares them to modern HR departments. Here feared laughter, far more than they feared anger.
You can police anger. You can arrest someone for rioting or shouting.
But laughter inherently implies that the authority figure is ridiculous.
If the people are laughing at the leader has already lost their legitimacy.
And now we see the law actively stepping in to stop the laughter in our own society. Nomos.
This is where the book gets genuinely scary. Riker tracks how the legal definition of harm has been slowly redefined.
It used to strictly mean physical injury or direct financial loss. Tangible things.
Now, it legally includes emotional distress.
The juice box guy comes to mind immediately here. That story made my blood boil when I read it.
Mike Ward, the Canadian comedian.
Yes, he was heavily fined by a human rights tribunal for a joke he made about a public figure.
And Riker also mentions the juice box comparison regarding gender fluidity, where the legal argument against the comedian wasn't that he incited any violence.
No, the argument was simply that he caused humiliation.
So the law now exists to protect the feelings of these designated protected classes, while actively silencing what Riker calls the red-pilled truth tellers.
And we are seeing this happen in the UK too, right?
Oh, absolutely. You literally have police investigating people for tweets.
Yes. It isn't just about getting canceled on Twitter anymore, it's the actual state apparatus coming for you.
Riker calls comedians the canary in the coal mine.
When you aren't allowed to joke about the sacred cows, and today those cows are gender, diversity, equity, it means the society is possessed.
It's the first glaring sign of a totalitarian slide. If you can't mock the thing that rules over you, you simply are not free.
So the question is, what do we do about it? We know the diagnosis, we know the mechanics, we know the enemy.
Section 4 is all about reclaiming masculinity, and Riker brings in two more concepts here. Apollonian versus Dionysian humor.
And this actually surprised me. He goes after some traditional guy humor as being objectively bad.
He does, and this really distinguishes him from a lot of other commentators in the specific space.
He critiques the Dionysian style, named after Dionysus, the god of wine and chaos.
This is the chaotic, degrading type of humor. He specifically targets Jackass.
Well, wait a minute. I grew up watching Jackass. A lot of guys did. Isn't that the ultimate example of guys just being dudes and bonding?
Riker says no. He sees it as regression, not rebellion.
It's men degrading themselves purely for attention. It's cringe comedy.
Right. A man hitting himself in the groin for a laugh isn't mastering his reality. He's actively submitting to chaos.
He's making himself the victim. Riker argues strongly for the Apollonian approach instead.
Apollo being the god of order, light, and reason.
Exactly. Think of Jacques Tati or Winston Churchill.
Churchill didn't run around screaming or physically hurting himself for a laugh.
No, he delivered these devastating, calculated one-liners that instantly restored order and sanity to a room.
Like when he was told he was drunk and he replied, "Yes, but in the morning I shall be sober and you will still be ugly." That is Apollonian.
It asserts dominance through superior wit.
So it's about control versus chaos. It's the difference between acting like a king versus acting like a jester.
And this brings us back to why men desperately need this dynamic. We touched on it with the SEALs, but Riker goes very deep into male bonding rituals.
He talks extensively about roasting.
He calls it an absolute necessity for men.
He mentions the Google Humor Guidelines, which apparently actually exist in writing, that ban specific types of jokes to avoid excluding anyone.
Riker argues this completely sterilizes the workplace. Men need to roast each other to establish baseline trust.
If I can playfully mock you and you can take it and mock me back, we instantly know we are equals. We know we are solid.
It's a required verification process. If I can't mock you, it means I have to constantly walk on eggshells around you.
And I can't truly trust a man. I have to walk on eggshells around.
Correct. It creates artificial distance, not true inclusion.
It creates this toxic hierarchy of victimhood where the person who can't be joked about actually holds all the power.
So let's look at Riker's final call to arms. His advice to men is pretty blunt. Don't apologize.
But how does he actually operationalize that? Because that is way easier said than done when HR is breathing down your neck.
He says to use the triple filter method, but in reverse.
Okay, remind me of those filters again. Is it true? Is it necessary? Is it kind?
Right. Riker says, look closely at that third one. Is it kind? If the answer is no, then it absolutely must be said.
That is extremely aggressive. Is it kind? No. Then say it.
It is aggressive, but his underlying point is that truth is very often unkind. Objective reality is unkind.
And men are the ones who historically have to deal with harsh reality.
He has that incredible quote in this section. The only thing worse than being hated is being pitied.
That hits so hard. Being pitied really is the ultimate defeat for a man.
It is. And apologizing for a joke just because someone's feelings were hurt is essentially begging for their pity. It is submitting to their frame.
Riker is telling men to stand up, hold their own frame, and refuse to let the witchcraft of emotional safety dictate their speech.
This book really does function as a manual for cognitive warfare.
It frames humor not as a way to escape the world, but as the ultimate tool to conquer it.
It's a last remaining weapon against the witchcraft of political correctness.
When you laugh at the absurd, you instantly break its spell over you. You stop being afraid of the labels they try to throw at you.
Absolutely. And listen, we have really just scratched the surface of what is actually in this book today.
There are whole chapters on ethos, telos, daemon. It is incredibly dense and powerful. You need to read the whole thing for yourself.
It really helps you see the matrix, so to speak.
So here is your mission for today. Go to Amazon Kindle or Google Play Books right now.
Search for Humor and Honor, Masculine Ethics in a World Possessed by Witchcraft.
Buy it, read it, Arm yourself.
And do not forget to follow the author, @Conrad Riker, on Substack.
Yeah, he is putting out uncensored thought there that you are simply not going to find anywhere in the mainstream press.
And if you found value in this deep dive, if you want us to keep exploring these topics that other shows are just too scared to touch, you need to support us.
Like this show, subscribe to the podcast, help the algorithm fight back against the safety patrol.
We need your numbers to keep this going. It makes a huge difference.
We're going to leave you with one final thought from Riker on the ancient concept of demos.
Demos, the Greek concept of spiritedness. It's the part of the soul that seeks recognition and feels righteous indignation, the fire in the belly.
Riker writes, laugh not to escape the world, but to conquer it. Because a man who laughs is a man who cannot be ruled.
Cannot be ruled.
Think about that, and think about this. What happens when the regime realizes they can't stop the laughter with HR policies? Do they make laughter itself illegal? Will the underground resistance of the future just be men telling jokes in dark basements?
The crazy thought.
It is. Thanks for listening to The Deep Dive. We'll see you next time.